My name is Sandy Fox, and I have been a voice actor in Los Angeles for over 33 years. So I'm very grateful. I started my career, my introduction into entertainment. I performed musicals in high school, and I'm from Pittsburgh, PA. On my summers, I worked at the Kennywood theme park as a singer and a dancer. And then I went on to work for the Walt Disney Company in Orlando, Florida. So there I played a number of different characters and shows and roles, and was a live stage performer in many, many shows over the 10, 11 years I was there. And then at the same time, I was also singing with this 1920s orchestra called the Coconut Manor Orchestra, and I was the Betty Boop girl. So I sang a lot of the songs that the women of the 1920s would sing, like Helen Kane and Annette Henshaw, and they were the jazz singers or the pop singers of the era. So that was kind of my introduction into Betty Boop. So a lot of the times I would perform with that orchestra, and I would sing the famous I Wanna Be Loved by You, and different songs, and they'd even ask me to dress like Betty Boop. So it was that job that took me to Los Angeles. I took a voiceover workshop with a casting director and wonderful actress named Sue Blue, and she just inspired me so much. I didn't know that the animation voiceover career, or I didn't really know a lot about it. So I learned a lot in that class, and that inspired me to move to Hollywood in 1991, and that's when I moved to LA. And I started working at Universal Studios Hollywood as the very first living Betty Boop, which I did a lot of publicity and television and radio for the first 3 years, and travel. I traveled to Japan several times. And then my first voiceover job was working on The Simpsons. So The Simpsons had just moved from the Tracy Ullman show. They were just picked up by Fox. And so I was one of the lucky people to be in that very first WALA group. WALA means background actors. And so we would go in after the main characters recorded their lines. We would go in and fill in all the scenes, like snake whacking day, anything in the schoolyard, lots of really fun things. And so I did that for 5 years. I also worked on King of the Hill for 7 years in their background group. I also worked on Futurama for 2 years, and The Critic. Yeah, and that was in the early 90s, so the shows were just starting, and I got to work with a group of, between 5 and 7 actors performing everything else around the main characters. I also did a White Castle hamburger commercial. That was my first commercial with Marvin Kaplan and Lorenzo Music, who's the voice of Garfield the cat. He's passed on now. And then my first couple animes, I worked for 2 studios, ZRO, which did Cowboy Bebop, Ghost in the Shell. So I was the Tachikomas in Ghost in the Shell, and also Bang Zoom Entertainment. And the very first show that Bang Zoom ever did was called Ninja Cadets. And I starred in that as Sakura. So that was learning how to dub, we were all kind of learning how to dub together. Magic Knight Ray Earth was another show. And I sang all the theme songs, all the music in that show we dubbed into English. And then also Rurouni Kenshin, I sang the opening theme song, Freckles. Lex sang the Tactics, the ending theme song. And so then that's really what kicked off my anime career. And then at the same time, I was working in mainstream animation on shows like As Told by Ginger. I played Mipsy Mipsen. My Life as a Teenage Robot, I was Melody. And Harmony and Hi Hi Puffy Ami Yumi. I'm I'm your number one fan. And so that was really fun. So a little mix of mainstream animation. Oh, I was Dinah in Land Before Time movies, Secret of Source Rock. I worked as Lily Leapfrog and Penny the hamster in the Leapfrog videos for kids. And trying to think what else. And then just moved on to, I would say my biggest anime that you all know is Sailor Moon. So I voiced Chibiusa, Sailor Chibi Moon, and Black Lady in that. And it's the Viz Media dub, which I absolutely love because they took all of Naoko's work and they did not cut out anything. So it was very inclusive. It was very representative of all of her work. And that was the woman Shar at Viz Media. That was her mission, and she really just executed it beautifully. So from 2014, we started filming the original Sailor Moon Crystal, the movies, R and Supers, and then, of course, we did the 2 Eternal movies, and then we just did Cosmos. So I don't know if any of you seen it. It's on Netflix right now, playing, and it's Sailor Moon Cosmos, and it's the finale of the finales. It's the very last arc that Naoko wrote. So unless she, decides to, start a new manga or new arc, but yeah, it was bittersweet because I have such a place in my heart for not only that character but that series and how it's touched so many people's lives. So thank you.
Yes. Hi. I'm Lex Lang, and I've been doing voice acting this is my 30th year. In October will be 30 years. And I got started as a stage actor in high school and college, and then I was in a repertory company after college, and then I moved to Los Angeles to go to music school, a school called the Musicians Institute, which is it does like guitar. It's kind of a rock and roll school. It's like guitar, bass, keyboards, producing, all kinds of stuff. Very cool school. And then while I was still there at the Musicians Institute, I became the spokesman for the school. So anytime anyone would want information about the school, they'd send out for the DVD and get info on the school. And I was the guy on the DVD saying like, Hollywood, California, the entertainment capital of the world. And here in Hollywood is the Musicians Institute. Let's go take a tour, and that kind of thing, and we do the whole tour thing. So after I'd become the spokesman for the school, a director called our school who was doing a movie about a band, and they said, can you send somebody over who looks like they know how to play, to teach our actors to look like they know how to play the guitar, because none of them have ever played, and they're supposed to be this like blazing rock band, and none of them could barely like hold the guitar. They knew very little of what to do. So I went over there, and I was showing them how to do windmills and jump off the risers and do all this fun stuff with the guitar. And the director looked at me and he goes, you wouldn't happen to be an actor too, would you? And I was like, as a matter of fact, yes, that's really what I do. And he said, okay, you're the new lead guitar player. And the lead guitar player is like, what? And he goes, no, we're making you the keyboard player. You're going to be right there. It's all good still. You still get your scenes and everything, because he had some scenes in the movie. And then I had a few scenes in the movie. And that was a great experience. And I became friends with a guy named Bentley Mitchum, who is the grandson of a guy named Robert Mitchum, who was a really famous actor in the 50s. He was like one of the first really big stars of Hollywood. And so anyway, we became friends. We became roommates at one point. And then he was an on-camera actor for many years. And he was in this movie called Susie Q. I don't know if anyone ever saw that. But Amy Jo Johnson, the pink Power Ranger at the time, was the lead actress. And he was playing her boyfriend. And so I went up to visit him. It was being shot in Vancouver. I went up to visit him, and we were all hanging out together. And I was also doing stand-up comedy at the time. So I started doing my stand-up comedy routine, which had a bunch of different impressions and things in it. And Amy said, you'd be a great voice actor. And I was like, voice actor? What is that? And I was like, okay, there wasn't any voice acting in video games at the time. There was no such thing as anime at the time. There was a little bit, but it was called Japanimation, and nobody dubbed it. It was like just something that came over from Japan that was original animation. There was really very little, like Sandy said, like The Simpsons had just started, with like dialogue-driven animation. Before that, it was like all stuff like Tom and Jerry, where like they don't say much. So I was like, what do you mean a voice actor? And she said, oh, on our show, The Power Rangers, every week there's some kind of villain in a suit of some kind that needs a voice. And so you'd be great for those. Plus, as Sandy mentioned, the loop group, like all the background players of stuff, they have a loop group too for Power Rangers. And so I was introduced to Scott Page Pactor, who was the producer at the time. And he put me in the booth and I did a bunch of different characters and he said, you're hired. So that's where I got started, is on the Power Rangers. And shortly after that, I met Sandy and she helped me a lot with, like, I had an agent, but she got me like a really good agent and she helped me with like my demo tape. Back then it was a cassette tape, believe it, And then, things like, it's funny because back then, like not everybody had a phone on them, for sure. Like, we had what's called, it's gonna sound weird, it's called a pager. Anyone ever hear of that? It's a little box that has a tiny little LED screen on it, and someone calls the box, and it's like, beep, 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 beep. So you look at it, and there's a phone number, and you're like, oh, okay, I have no idea who that is, but it's a phone number. I'm gonna go find a phone booth to call them back on. So you call them back on the phone booth, and if it's your agent, they're like, come into the office, we have an audition for you. And so anyway, she helped me get my pager, and so I started in my business cards. And because I did a lot of like voice matching and celebrity kind of impressions at the time, we kind of came up with the idea to create a very exclusive business card that said Celebrity Voice Match Specialist. And so I gave it to all the editors at the movie studios. And I said, hey, if your celebrity that's the big wig has already come in to do their looping, their added dialogue or whatever, or they can't make it in, here's my number. I can impersonate them, and whatever you're editing, I can be the actor for that, right? So I started doing voice matching all through Hollywood for a lot of different movies. And then around that same time, I became friends with, and I didn't even know that she was a director, but there's a woman named Andrea Romano, who was like one of the greatest directors of animation for Warner Brothers. Everything you've ever seen from Warner Brothers and SpongeBob and all that, Andrea,
Batman, right?
For Batman and everything, for Warner Brothers. She was the director for that. And so we became friends. We met at a wedding, of all places. And then I guess she realized that I was a voice actor a few years later, and then had her assistant send me some auditions. So then I got to do a bunch of, I got cast as different characters in Justice League, in the Batman, in Justice League Unlimited, and Legion of Superheroes, and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, like all these different Western animation shows. So I was like, oh cool, I got that going. And at the same time, video games were starting to expand the memory of the video game so they could put more on. Because like when we first started, it was like they had like a whole 16 megabytes that they could put, you can't do anything with that. Then it was like gigabytes, and then they could add dialogue. And I was cast as Dr. Neo Cortex for the Crash Bandicoot games. Yeah. Oh yes, Dr. Cortex here. And so I started doing that, and then anime came out. Like Bang Zoom, Sandy was saying, we started with their first Ninja Cadets, and then their second big show, their first actual really big show, was Magic Knight Ray Earth, and I played Zagato and Ray Earth and Wyndham and Lantis. I played like 6 characters on that show. And then Rurouni Kenshin came out right after that, and I played Sanosuke Sagara in Rurouni Kenshin, and they just rebooted that, I think, not too long ago. And so then I started doing a bunch of anime, like hundreds of different anime shows. And then, what else? And then I just kind of started doing all of them at the same time. And I started doing video games. I played Han Solo in a lot of the Star Wars games. I play in some of the newer animation, Star Wars Resistance. I play Major Von Reg, and I play Stormtroopers. I've been Stormtroopers in 19 Star Wars games.
Creatures.
I do a lot of creatures too.
A lot of creatures.
Yeah, one thing I do is creatures in features and feature films and things. So I've been the last 5 Planet of the Apes movies. When you see the primates, that's me and about 3 other people.
Yeah.
I've done Velociraptors in Jurassic World. and just tons and tons of things.
Constantine,
I was
the evil.
Demons and Constantine
Yeah.
and
It's super talented.
lots of stuff in Legends of Tomorrow and The Flash and a lot of television shows, just a lot of them. And I guess here we are. And then I got cast in Jujutsu Kaisen. Have you seen some of that? Some of you have seen that, I know, yeah. That was really interesting because most of the time we audition. In fact, a voice actor, most of what they do is auditioning. And about every 100 or so auditions we get cast in the role, and we get to actually go do the part. Well, this was interesting because they called me, Jamie Simone from Studiopolis, which is the production house for JJK. They called me and said, hey, we've got this part. His name is Suguru Geto, and we think he'd be a good fit for you as a voice actor. And I was like, great. And so I went in, and the first season, for anyone who's seen all the show, the first season he's kind of like in the background. You're not sure what he is. In fact, the director didn't even know what his role was in the show. And I came in, I was like, oh, hey, this is great. I got cast in this. What's the scar? Like, he's got this giant scar across his forehead. And the director, who's a dear friend of mine and actually a good director and everything, he's like, I don't know, buddy. And I was like, okay, is he a good guy in this show? Or is he like an antagonist? He's like, I don't know, buddy. And I was like, okay, so the voice, does he have like a youthful voice, or is it a little older? He's got this scar, he looks like something's going on. He's like, just use your own voice, buddy. And I was like, okay, so what do you want me to do as the character? Like, can you give me any information? Like, what's this character about? And he goes, just be mysterious. I was hating it, I tell you. Because an actor, we want as much information as we can humanly get to like sink our teeth into so we can portray the character properly, right?
And that's very rare. In anime, we don't see the script at all beforehand. We don't see the film beforehand or the series. So we completely rely on the director to know everything. And so when you walk into a session and the director doesn't really know the project or was brought on last minute, the whole project suffers.
It throws you, especially as an actor. And I guess, the manga had been out, but it hadn't been too advanced. It wasn't like too far past the storyline at the time. So there wasn't much he didn't read the manga, I was like, dude, come on, you're directing the show. So the movie was next. And when I went to do the movie, it was a new director, and she's an amazing director. And I said, okay, now you're showing me a guy who does not have the scar. What happened? Like, what's the scar about? Tell me. And she said, oh, come on into the booth. Let's look at these manga together. So we went and we looked through all these manga, read a bunch of stuff. She goes, before we do this, there's a bunch of flashback scenes in this movie. Let's watch all the flashback scenes together. So we watched all the Gojo and Geto flashback scenes. And then she's like, okay, here's what it is. He is an antagonist. This is what happened. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but like there's a reason for the scar and everything. And she gave me so much information that I was like, now I can play this character, So if you notice, if you watch season 1, the mysterious Geto, or Kenchaku, you'll notice a big change when the movie hits, because all of a sudden it's like, there's the character. I know him now. And then when season 2 happened, by that point, I was already reading the manga, and I was caught up with the manga, which was way ahead of season 2. So every time a new episode would come out and I'd see what was happening on the episode, I was like, oh, cool, I remember this from the manga. I'd go back and I'd read it, and I'd be like, great, so next week, because it was simulcast. So let's say it came out in Japan on a Monday. Tuesday, Studiopolis, the studio, would get the cut, and then we would have to dub from Tuesday until the following Wednesday, and then we'd turn it in on Wednesday. Thursday, it would come out on as the dub. So every week we would just like be getting that one little section, right? But for those of us, and actually the whole cast is really into the manga, like especially the top like 6 characters in the cast, like we were all caught up and everything. So by the time I would get to the session, I was like, yeah, I know what's going on in this. I'm so ready for this, and it was like really a great experience. It still is a great experience. I absolutely love playing this character, Suguru Geto. So I think I rambled on in a direction that just went totally off course. But that's how I got started. That's what I'm doing with JJK, and I'm loving it. Any other questions? The questions can actually be about, it could be about anime, Oh, we got a question line seating. I forgot about that. That's the coolest thing. Instead of like a long line of people who stand there for 10 minutes.
I love it.
So it can be about anything, though. If you want to know about our lives, we got dogs, what we do for our fun, whatever. Like, we're happy to answer any kind of Q&A together.
Hello, I'm Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Nice to meet you. This question is for, but first of all, I want to say, Lex, you were in like one of my childhood shows, Justice League.
Oh, yeah.
That, I grew up every morning waiting for that show to air.
Great show, great
Love
show.
that show, but my question is for you specifically. What was it like working on that show? Did you ever get to meet like Kevin Conroy, and what was that like?
Oh, yeah. Kevin Conroy and I are friends. He passed away, God rest his soul. He was the Batman, everyone. I've played Batman a few times in my career. I played him in Batman Brave and the Bold. It was Diedrich Bader who played the main Batman, but I played Nightwing in Brave and the Bold, and he becomes Batman for an arc in the story where Batman gives his cape and cowl. But yeah, Kevin was really sweet, super nice. When I worked on that show, I also worked with Ed Asner once. I worked with Brooke Shields, Michael York, Clancy Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, so many great characters. What was really cool about that show, Michael Rosenbaum also. Yes. What was cool about that show is, when we record different types of voice acting, it's always different. For example, when we do a Western animation like a Justice League, it's a cast recording. So the entire cast is there, and we read through it almost like theater style. We all have our own stands and scripts and everything in front of us, and we go through the entire script with the director in the room, and they give us little notes, and then the director goes into the booth, and then the rest of the cast records it. Each line is numbered, so the director will say, okay, let's do 1 through 17, and we're going to go through that, and they do it, and they do a little pickup if needed, then they go through the rest, keep going like that, right? So, but anime, we work by ourselves, and we've never seen the script. Well, like Western animation, they send the script to us like 3 or 4 days before we record so we can look at it. In anime and also video games, we're in a booth by ourselves. Yeah. And for anime, we go in, there's a thing called the beeps. I don't know if anyone's heard of the beeps. Basically, it's 3 beeps, like boop, 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 right? And on the 4th beep that doesn't exist is where you start reading your performance. So that's like if you're saying, let's go, you guys, or whatever, right? So it'd be like, boop, 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 let's go, you guys, right? And so hopefully if the adaptation writer is a good one, it'll match all the flaps that are happening in the anime, right? Because it's original animation that's come over, right? Yep. It's already done. If it's not a good adaptation writer, then we have to try it again and add words and maybe rewrite and that kind of stuff. Whereas in video games, we get the entire, what we're doing in the video game script, 1,600 lines or whatever.
On the screen in
On the
front of
screen,
you.
and you just read one at a
Go
time,
down.
each one, and then there's
You do an A and a B.
which is like 2
Yeah.
versions.
Oh,
and
that's
then
cool.
Well, it's a lot of lines.
the director will definitely, they say the select A or B to the person that's doing the editing and stuff with them. And it's funny because I'm trying to look for an image right now. There's, in video games, you die a lot.
Yes.
So you do all your lines, and then they say, okay, now we're going to do all the death stuff. So I took a picture of this because I was like, you got to be kidding me. Okay, so I'm trying to think of what game it was. I think it was a Star Wars game. So it was like efforts of heaving and hoeing before you die. Small pain before death. Big pain before death. Death by neck snapping. Very quick stabbing death. Efforts for being crushed death. Death being burned or dissolved.
Or dissolved.
Death by electrocution. Death by explosion. Death by long fall, which I assume is like 60 feet down. Death by shortfall. That's tripping over a cable and dying or something, yeah.
Tripping over an Ewok.
Death by smoke inhalation.
Oh my gosh.
Coughing and death by smoke inhalation. And that was just part of it. I just took one picture of it was like 80 of them. So you can imagine, we'll do all our lines and then it's like, okay, it's the next 15 minutes is dying.
Yeah.
So, but
And then also Miraculous Ladybug does the
there's a thing called the band, which is the dialogue. Yeah, some kind of band. I forgot what it is. There's like a little line right in the middle, and it's scroll. What's it called? Rhythmo band. So
yes.
there's a little line right in the middle, and the line scrolls across. And as the words come across that little line, you have to say them as they're hitting the line.
And they're in cursive, which is like, so.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So it's like instant performance as it goes
As
by.
it's going
It's just
by.
like you're
You're
reading
like-
it, going, okay.
Yeah.
And you get to preview it once.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
like, can we practice for a few times?
But
No,
I
you
think
can't
is it
practice.
just Europe that does that? or
Usually
France?
it's a European.
Yeah, because I was
What is it?
flown. Canada as
yeah,
well.
Canada.
I was flown to Paris to record a Betty Boop commercial. And I was by myself and I walked in the studio that morning and the band's like flying and it was this whole Lancome movie about Betty Boop and eyelashes. And I asked, and nobody spoke English, very few people spoke English in the studio. And I asked for beeps and they're like, Boop wants beeps. Boop wants beeps. And they're like, they're freaking out because they're like, what?
We don't have the beep.
We have no beeps.
Yeah, so it was a long answer, but yes, thank you. Good
Yay,
question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Thank you
Yes.
for answering.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. Hello.
How's it going?
So this question's more for Lex, but
Okay.
if you know what I'm talking about, you can join in too.
Okay.
So besides the Agumon evolution line, what is your favorite Digimon?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm very biased. War Greymon has always been my favorite Digimon, and not just because I play them. Omnimon's really cool, too. Yeah, Omnimon is probably one of my favorite evolutions of that, too. Yeah, Digivolutions. Yeah, I'd have to say that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I know,
she doesn't know Digimon. Yeah, very
I
cool,
know
though.
Pokemon.
Yes, thank you, though. Good question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yay.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. So this question is most likely for Sandy.
Okay.
So, how do you get head to voice Kana from Fire Emblem?
Oh, how did I get to voice Kana? I was cast as Kana by the studio that produced the game and recorded the video game. No audition
Oh,
for
they just
Kana.
cast you.
Yeah, they cast me as male Kana, and then Michelle Ruff played female Kana. But I'd worked in a lot of their Tales games as well. I voiced Patty Fleur in Tales of Vesperia. So I've done a lot of like Tales games too at that same studio. So they just cast me as the little boy Kana. Yeah.
Oh, wait. Did you say Michelle Ruff playing?
Michelle Ruff plays female Kana.
I-
like my twin sister.
I thought it was Eden Regal who playing female Kana.
No,
think
not
so.
the first one. Not the first Fire Emblem Heroes. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey.
Thank you.
I do recommend playing Fire Emblem Fate's Birthright. So you can see how Kana appears.
Okay.
Yeah, I just know that I recorded a new Kana at the beginning of this year. It was like a New Year's special. It was a special male Kana, and he had a New Year's, like, wish you good luck kind of New Year's. It was a special, when they do that in video games, a special, like, you can get the special character.
Oh, yeah, DLC.
So that was fun. I got to come back
Oh,
for a
he-
little bit, for
oh,
New
he-
Year's,
He
in
is
my little New Year's regalia, so.
he is a precious cinnamon roll after all.
Aw,
Thank you so much. Good
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. So just real quick, thank you for confirming that with Geto, because I watched the first season and went, what the heck? is
Yeah.
going on here?"
What's going on
and
with
then
Geto?
I watched the
Yeah.
movie in theaters and was like, there's the character.
There
I
he is. There he is. Yes.
So thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
explains so much. But my question is to both of you. So of all the characters that you guys have played over your years, what's a character that maybe most people might not know about, that might seem a little bit more obscure, that you really wish more people
Oh,
were
wow.
familiar with?
Oh.
Gosh, I don't think that way so
There-
much about.
Yeah. I mean, there's, what was Argento Soma?
Oh, yeah, that was
That
good.
you played Frank the robot.
Oh, yeah, Argento Soma was the cool
Argento
stuff.
Soma, and I played Hattie the little girl. and she was like an orphan, and he played the robot that befriended her. And that's a beautiful, beautiful anime. If you can ever find it, I would say a lot of these like were on VHS or something, but never saw them again. Or
They're starting to like put a lot of that content out now on streaming networks
are
too.
they?
Yeah. What was that one? Midnight Detective? Was that the one?
Midnight Detective.
Where I played Kane and you played the little
Goonie.
Goonie.
Goonie the vampire.
Anybody know that one? Okay.
That was a vampire.
There's a bunch of
I
you
don't
know
know
that
if
one.
it was
Okay, cool.
Midnight Detective.
Something like that.
I
Midnight
played Goonie,
something.
you played, and then
Kane. I played
Suzu the Dark Elf, and you played
Gestalt.
Dr. Olivia Gestalt.
Gestalt.
Gestalt. These are very obscure anime, but if you ever get to watch them, very cool.
Yeah.
And then another one where Michelle Ruff and I were partners again was called Risky Safety. And I had so much fun recording this. It was about this little girl, and she had this little devil and little angel on her shoulder, basically, you know. And Risky was, I played Risky, the little, you know, bad demon character. But Risky was so funny because I loved voicing that character. As simple as Risky was, she always wanted, she was like Gollum. Like there was a part of her that really wanted to be good.
No, she wasn't doing that.
But she really wanted to do the right thing. Do you know what I mean? And she struggled with that. And I love that part of her character. So yeah, those are kind of some secure.
I just did think of an obscure one. Did anybody ever see? It was really not a great movie, but it was called Lost in Space. It was a remake with Matt LeBlanc in it.
Oh, yeah.
Some of you saw that? Amongst my friends and I, we call it Lex in Space because I was hired to do a voice match. It was an audition. William Hurt was, you know, he played the main guy in that, and Will Robinson, and. I was hired to do some sound-alike for him. You know, I did the audition with like 40 people, and they brought me in, and they go, okay, great, we're so glad you're here. We know initially it was going to be 4 lines, but William Hurt went to an ashram in the Himalayas, and he's off the grid for the next 3.5 months. So we have to finish 3 different cuts of the movie. So you have to replace him for 38 lines in the movie.
Crazy.
And some of those are on-camera lines where the audio was bad, and you just have to replace his mouth flaps, like replace him. And you know, William Hurt, you know, he has a voice that's a little more in here like that. Yeah. You know, so I was doing that, and then while I was at the session, the director said, "Oh, you know what? You're really good at manipulating your voice. There's 2 robot lines." He's just like going, danger, danger, or whatever, you know. Can you give me like those 2 robot lines? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we did that, and then he said, oh, at the end of the movie, Gary Oldman turns into this like spider creature. And we recorded some of Gary, but he just, you know, he's a phenomenal actor. He's one of the best actors out there. I don't know if you've seen Slow Horses or any of those shows that he's on now. He's always been the phenomenal actor. But like being the spider creature wasn't his thing. He did a few things and he was like, I've done enough, you know, whatever. And so, can you do the whole spider creature stuff? And I'm like, sure, I'll do the spider creature stuff too. So I did all the spider creature. And then they go, oh, you know, there's some radio announcements that happen when the little Robinson boy, I forgot his name. Is it also Will? I think it also is.
Yeah.
He's sitting in this like cubby and he's listening to these announcements, the government announcement stuff. Can you do that too? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, we're all done. Oh, one more. At the beginning of the movie, the Jupiter 3, Jupiter 5, I forgot the name of the ship, but it's taking off and you see the control tower and there's this bald control tower guy. He's got like a headset on, and can you revoice him for us? And I was like, why? Let's watch, you know. So we watched him, and he's like, good luck, old friend. You know, he's like doing this really bad Russian accent, you know. And the director goes, God, I cast like 80 people in this movie. The one guy decides to do a Russian accent. And when we were on set, I was like, okay, we can do that, but what's your reasoning? And he's like, by the time there's space travel like this, Russia and the United States are going to be pals. I was like, what? Yeah.
That aged poorly.
Yeah, that aged poorly. And so I revoiced that entire part also. So that's why we always joke and say it's called Lex in Space, because you're bound to hear me, especially on all the William Hurt stuff. You can't tell it's me, thank goodness, but I'm all over that whole movie. That's an obscure one for sure.
That's obscure.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
I've watched that movie because of my dad. And now that you're saying it, I'm thinking back on it and I'm like, well, this explains some things.
Gato in space.
Yes, Ghetto in space, indeed.
Thank you for the
Thank
question.
you.
It's a
Good
great
question. Oh, look at all those
Hello.
buttons.
Hello. Oh yeah, very
Oh,
cool.
dear.
Oh, and your Sailor Moon
You're falling
shirt.
apart.
Yeah, baby. So, Lex, I just wanted to say thank you for voicing Goemon Ishikawa the 13th.
Oh yeah.
I love your Lupin shirt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
Everyone,
that's right.
please watch Lupin. It is great.
It's fun. Watch the
it's-
Red Jacket first though, because that's really funny. The Red Jacket.
The Red
series.
Jacket stuff, like, I've seen clips of it since it's, like, way too long for me. It is so funny. And also, the funny thing was I was playing Crash Insane Trilogy on my Steam Deck.
Crash?
And,
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, oh, yeah, Lex Lang's at my con. But yeah, so I actually wanted to ask Sandy something because I've been watching Sailor Moon, like the 90s show, and I wanted to say, what is your favorite Chibiusa moment?
Oh, okay. So I wasn't in the 90s version. Do you know that, right? Oh, yeah.
like the
I
Viz
was in the
version.
Viz version.
Yeah, like the Viz version.
Yeah, the Viz version. I would really have to say what really, there's so many special moments. Even in this Cosmos, I like cried all the way home from the, Lex will tell you, I just bawled like telling him what was going to happen. It's so beautiful, like the whole story. But I would have to say it's the Black Lady arc. Like when she, it's such a powerful arc, and so many women have come up to me and shared their story, how it helped them get through mental, health issues, and some of them were even suicidal. But it's that Black Lady arc. I think it's very powerful because I believe all villains come from a wounded place. And I think that, Wiseman kind of represents that voice in our head that's always saying those negative things. Nobody loves you, you suck, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she just believed it and believed it and believed it. And she was so filled with darkness that she wanted to destroy everything. And kiss her father, which is I didn't really get that part. Like whoa, what's happening?
That's anime.
Yeah, that's anime.
Anime is
But
very
anyway,
strange.
besides that, but yeah, and then it wasn't till she was shown, look, that love is all around you, you're just not receiving it, and it's all around you. And that was her way back to herself. And I think that's just that moment is so powerful. That's powerful media, that is not only, archetypal story, but it's also like a beautiful teaching, for all of us, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good question.
Honestly, I'm not sure if you did like the 90s Viz version.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that was done in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Linda Ballantyne, like incredible actors. I've met some of them, and that was
Interesting.
done in Canada. And the script was very edited because it was broadcast television. There were only 3 networks, and they had to take out Uranus and
Yeah.
Neptune's relationship. They had to cut it out.
Gals being pals.
Yeah. So it's really nice that Viz was dedicated to telling the whole story.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, probably my favorite is probably Black Lady. Just like
Yeah.
and I basically Chibiusa basically went from who's this pink little booger to she is now probably my second favorite Sailor
Aw.
Senshi.
That's cool.
Thank
First
you.
one saw me, by the way.
Awesome. Thank you. Good
All right,
questions.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
I had a question for before you come up. I spoke with someone earlier today who asked me how Sandy and I met. Are they here right now? Is that person here? Because I would. No, nobody. Okay. Oh, are you interested?
Did he pique your interest? Like,
Well, no, because they were like, "Did you guys meet doing voice acting?" And I said, "No, no."
Yeah.
I said,
but my friend picked us up because we both
"Yeah."
like voices.
We have 7 minutes left. It's a 3-minute story. Should we go for it?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna
You can
start.
always come up to our table and ask questions too.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're here till 6.
Till 6. Okay. I'm going to start it. I'm sure she'll jump in. Okay, so my name Lex comes from my middle name, which is Alexis. Okay. My first name is Walter. I know. And so for the first 20 years of my life, and I totally kid not, every single time I would meet somebody, I'd be like, hey, I'm Walter, how you doing? They'd go, you don't look like a Walter. Every single time. And it's like, I don't need to be told. So finally I said, you know what, I'm going to start going by Alexis. I was a guy in a rock band, and I was like, Alexis is kind of cool. Alexis Lang, that sounds kind of cool, right? So anyway, that's what I was doing. I was going by Alexis. So backtrack about 2 years before that. I went up north to visit my brother who was living in Mendocino at the time. And I met a couple of his friends, this woman named Victoria and her husband. Anyway, fast forward a little bit. I met her as Walter before I changed over. So Victoria moves to Los Angeles, and she becomes friends with Sandy. And she says, oh, you got to meet this guy, Walter, because you guys would really hit it off. I think you'd be good for each other, right? So they would call me. I was already changed over to Alexis. They would call me and leave a message on my machine, not Sandy, but our friend Victoria, and would say, oh, hey, Walter, this girlfriend of mine and I are going to be salsa dancing this week. Come join us. And I'd be like, yeah, cool, that sounds good. And I was living in Venice by myself, single guy in Venice, and I was like, Tuesday would roll around, I'd be like, you know what, I'm going to do something else instead of go salsa dancing with this lady who's calling me Walter still. I don't feel like, that was a page ago, I'm not going to do it, right?
And our big joke was like, where's Waldo? Where's Walter? Because he just bailed on us like for 6 months.
For 6 months, I think every time I would be like,
like,
okay,
oh, I'm busy.
no, okay, no. You know, so, okay, fast forward a little bit. So I get invited to this swimsuit illustrated calendar party, reveal party in the Hollywood Hills. And I go there, and there's like 2,000 people there. And this is back 29 years ago, right? And everyone's wearing black, like really cool black.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s. You know, everyone's wearing like cool black outfits and stuff.
Cool.
2,000 people. I'm literally like, excuse me. Like, you know how it is in the halls over here? It was like that at this person's party. So I went around, I was talking to people, and finally I was getting tired. I was like, I need to find a seat somewhere. So I'm looking around outside, and I see the feet of a chair, and I'm like, oh, there's a chair. I don't see other feet, you know, next to it. And I'm like, excuse me, I part the Black Sea. And they're wearing a beautiful, like, Asian floral print dress.
Red dress, because
Red dress.
I am totally uncool. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to wear black?
Yeah.
I'm wearing red.
So she's wearing this beautiful dress, and I go, hi, what's your name? And she says, Sandy. And I go, hi, I'm Alexis. Nice to meet you. So we start talking, and we're hitting it off really well, and we're like,
holding hands
we're
by
like,
the fire.
Inside, there's a giant fireplace. Like, it's a mansion, you know, so we're like sitting at the fireplace holding hands and stuff. And, you know, I hadn't noticed that her voice was really high. Like, I just didn't notice. And so we were talking, and she was like, I'm a voice actor and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of working on this. I just started voice acting. I'm working on this show called, her friend Victoria said that this guy that she was trying to set her up with, Walter, was working for the Power Rangers show on Power Rangers. So she's like, I said, I'm just kind of breaking in myself. I'm working on this show called the Power Rangers. And everything else went out the window. She's like, oh my God, do you know this guy named Walter?
Like, what is
That
his
works
deal?
on the Power Rangers? She's like, he never shows up to anything. And I'm like,
What's his deal?
I go, well, actually, Walter and I are like this.
Swear to God.
And then I start messing with her. I'm like, he's so talented. God. I said, I love hanging out with him.
Oh my God.
Because he's actually a very good looking guy too, you know. And I was just joking around. And then she caught on pretty quickly, and she was like, what are you doing, you know? And I had a really old business card in my jacket, and it said Walter Alexis Lang on it. And I was like, here's my card. And she looked at it, we went, ah! She like screamed, and then we went to the phone, the landline, and we called our friend Victoria, and we're like,
Guess
you would
who
never get in a group of 2,000 people who
6
met.
months later.
Yeah, so
Yay.
that's how we met. Okay,
How we
there
met.
you go.
And then Richard Epcar called you Lex.
Yeah, I was Richard Epcar, who's also in Lupin. Lupin, yes,
Yeah.
okay. He's another voice actor. We're buddies, and we were leaving somewhere, and instead of saying, Alexis, let's go, he just went, Lex, come on, let's do this. And I was like, Lex? I never thought of that.
That's how we got Lex.
Lex Lang. It's got the alliteration, LL. That's kind of cool. I was like, I'm going to go by
Lex
that.
Luthor, Lana
Lang. Yeah, it's like Superman-y kind of thing. You know? So, yeah, that's how that
That's
happened.
how that
too.
happened.
All right, now we're in rapid fire for
Okay,
questions.
rapid fire.
So make
We'll
them quick.
answer quickly. We'll answer
We're going to
Okay.
answer quick.
So, Sandy, what's the most challenging role you'd love to reprise?
Challenging role I'd love to reprise. That's a tough one. I think the most challenging, like some of the challenging roles are the ones that challenge your vocal, like your voice.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I play
Vern.
Vern in Grand Blue Fantasy. So, and all the video games now, right? I did the animation. But Vern is like, it's something, it's hard to do for like 8 hours. So our sessions are just normal, video game sessions now, 2 to 4 hours. But yeah, Vern, he's like, yeah, dude, all right.
Thank you. I love your take of freckles, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good one. Look at your beautiful
I
hair.
love that shirt
Thank
too.
you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So my question is, what would you say is the best life lesson, like learning that you would get from a show that you?
What's a life lesson from a show we've been on?
Life lesson.
Sheesh, these are great questions, but they take some time to think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
amazing.
There's
A
so
life
many.
lesson.
There's a lot in Sailor Moon for me. Like, we're stronger when we work together. Like I love the unity message of Sailor Moon. Like each of us, have our individual gift, but we're stronger when we work together. There's so many, but I think Sailor Moon is kind of full of them. There's always something. One thing when you're in the studio, I don't know if it's how the universe casts you in these roles, but you tap into parts of yourself. Like parts of yourself that you can totally relate to. Like I bet with Geto, there's probably a lot, right?
She hasn't seen the whole show either. I tried.
It's kind of violent.
She doesn't do violence
I
of
don't
any
do
kind.
violent. I do cute.
And it's like,
I don't want to see like blood and gore and X body.
Yeah, so she doesn't know Geto.
No, but isn't there something in his lesson?
Well, he's committed to his ideology. I'll put that.
That would be you.
Regardless of what that may be.
Oh,
He's very
okay.
committed to that. I think for me, it would probably also be Batman because
Oh, yeah.
he's a superhero, but he has no superpowers. All of his superpowers are his own uniqueness and his own ability to train and his own ability. And he's got a bankroll. Okay, he can
got a bankroll.
bankroll his training. Okay, so that's in a way a little
And
bit
Alfred.
of a superpower.
He's got Alfred.
But in general, like he depends upon his own training, his own skill, his own determination. Like all that is really powerful as to what he represents as a superhero.
Yeah.
That other heroes are like, oh, okay, I'll shoot lasers out of my eyes or whatever.
And we can all do that, right? We can all use
Shoot lasers out of our eyes?
No,
No.
use our determination and our focus and our will and
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are those.
good question.
Thank you. Great question.
That's a great
Hi.
question.
Nice to-
Considering you guys both have had opportunities and like are hired specifically to match people's voices,
Yeah.
how much training and time goes into like studying their inflections and things like
Oh
that?
yeah. That would
Well, the training basically is getting to know your own instrument. Like that's where the training happens. Like learning how air flows through your vocal cords, whether it's like a voice like this, like I remember Morgan Freeman. Like you have like that. Or whether it's a voice that's got a lot more air in it, or how your instrument actually works, the pitch, the dynamics, how it sits in your face plate and all that. So that's the training. And then eventually what you do is when you're watching somebody, like if it's Owen Wilson or let's say it's Vince Vaughn, right? You're watching him and say, I don't know what you guys got going on around here, but it's kind of creeping me out. So you get the pacing and the rhythm and the music, and so you start to really study those things, and from there, that's when you start to develop the sound-alike capability.
Yeah, Lex is a master at that. He's one of the top 5 voice match specialists in Hollywood. And he also understands that, the Vince Vaughn that you see, like the kooky Vince Vaughn, sometimes in a movie he may sound different. So you voice match, and it's really
You voice match the character in the movie
and
more
the
than the
actor
person.
has to come through. So it's really, you have to be a good actor, as good as that actor on the screen. Yeah, good question.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
2 more, 3 more. We
Can we
can
do
do
it? Can we do it?
Yeah.
Are we over? Are we okay for 2 minutes?
Okay.
Okay, cool.
This one's more of a fun question for both of you.
Okay.
When you guys are not in the studio voicing your characters, are you kind of just like having fun with the voice of your characters throughout your day-to-day lives?
Not
too
really.
often.
Oh,
Yeah,
like I imagine.
we don't really. Yeah, I mean.
Just when there's a phone solicitor is when we.
Oh yeah.
Then you
Yes.
bring
Because
out
like
your Geto voice.
I'll look and I'll be like, oh, it says solicitor.
Hello? Yes, hold on a second. Oh no, I just pooped.
Yeah. Or they'll call and they'll ask for my mother. And if I don't want to talk to them, I'll be like, la, 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 do you have a Barbie? I have a Barbie. What's your Barbie look like? And then if I do have to talk to them, then I'll go, Mom! Hi, can I help you?
Yeah. Good question.
Come on up, black lady. Yay, you
Look
look
great.
pretty.
Thank you. My question's for Sandy. What is your favorite Chibiusa moment?
Oh, Chibiusa moment. Well, I don't know if there's just one, there's many, but her and Pegasus on the bed when she's asking like boy questions, like those little knights on the bed in her PJs and he's in the little cage. But also, like I couldn't tell you the episode. And then also just the ongoing banter between her and Sailor Moon in the originals, like my cookies, Mamaru likes my cookies better than your cookies, or you crybaby, you know. Just those little sister moments. I think there's so many, you know. It's been 10 years of recording.
When she goes, you crying? No, I'm kidding. That's a Gojo
A
line,
good question.
sorry.
Is it? Oh, see?
See, she doesn't know anything about JJK.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got one more.
Oh, this question's for Lex.
Okay.
So when recording lines for Suguru Geto, was it hard to keep a straight face when saying lines like "those damn monkeys"?
No, it wasn't, because at that point he's not feeling cheery. You know, he's in a deep depression usually, or he's definitely like in a full anger, hatred mode. So it's not like, hey, we're having a blast here. This is so funny, monkeys. It's not that at all. It's like, as an actor, I've sunk into the emotional state of the character. So like in that scene where they take over the Star Religious group, and he's like, is this on? You know, he's decided that he's going to take over this group, and he's like, from now on, you all obey me. And I'm changing the name. Any objections? And they're like clamoring, and he's like, well, that just won't do. And then he turns and he brings the guy up, he like kills him on stage, and then he's like, blood splatters on him, and he's like, damn monkeys. You know? So he's not like, damn monkeys.
No, it's
oh,
dark.
Monkeys.
Can we just
Ah.
say it's dark? Yeah.
It's dark. Yeah. And it's not like a prejudicial when he says damn monkeys. It's more about how primitive and how just not worth protecting they are. Because at first, Geto wanted to protect all the weak. And Gojo was like, we don't need to do that, you know. And he's like, yeah, but it's our duty as sorcerers to protect them. And then as he saw them being so primitive and so awful, and then with Toji like pretending that he killed Gojo and like saying a monkey like me could kill the strongest, you know, then he just started developing that idea of like these non-sorcerers are all monkeys, like Toji, you know.
Something too.
So.
And I think that term monkeys, and like in Japan, that's probably more of a cultural term, because they actually in some places eat monkeys. You know what I mean, in Japan? So I think it might be cultural too, that they're...
She doesn't know JJK.
No, that they're below them. But actually, there's a great book called The Third Chimpanzee, and how monkeys and primates are 3 degrees separate in DNA from us.
Yes.
So I wanted to say that
Okay.
on behalf of monkeys.
On behalf of all the monkeys that are being
Because I love
hated.
animals. We should take a picture.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna step down here to the front of the stage.
Oh,
but-
he had one more question.
Oh, one
Is
more
it
question?
quick?
We're already 5 minutes over. What's going on?
So I wanted to ask Lex, what was your favorite Crash Bandicoot game to voice Cortex?
Twin Sanity.
Twin Sanity,
Twin
yeah.
Sanity was my first and favorite, but I love doing all of them, I have to say, because since Twin Sanity, they give me the leeway to improvise a lot of the lines. So I'll read the line, then they'll be like, go ahead, improvise something, and then I'll improvise. And a lot of that, because I know Cortex so well, I've been doing them for 20 years, makes it into the games. And it's like the comedy, and sometimes not comedy, but just good stuff that Cortex gets to do.
Yeah, I hope to see you in Cortex in another Crash game. Who knows?
Thank you. Yeah, it'd be great. So what I was saying is that Sandy and I are going to stand right over here, down at the front of the stage. But anyone who would like to, we would love to have you be part of a selfie with us, of the whole group of us. Just come up to the front right here if you're willing and would like that. You might end up on our Instagram again too. I've been taking pictures of cosplayers all weekend.
Take one for the Insta.
Take a picture and a video.
No.